Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
Brought to you by GlanviaConnect.com.
Hello and welcome to Farmview. Well, as usual, it's Kieran O'Connor here with your weekly farming programme, and once again I have a very busy show for you this week. Well, on this week's programme I talked to well-known Ballinacourty potato grower Colin Ryan about this year's crop of early potatoes. I'll also preview Sunday's Embrace Farm's annual Remembrance service for loved ones lost or survivors of serious farm accidents. And plus I hear from a delighted Knockeen horse trainer Henry De Bromhead, who last week received the prestigious Freedom of Waterford. And plus, as always, I'll have our farming calendar.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanviaConnect.com, Ireland's biggest online farming shop and more.
Well, one area of Waterford renowned for early potatoes, of course, is Ballinacourty, just outside Dungarvan. So earlier in the week I took a trip out to Ballinacourty to meet one of the chief growers out there, Colin Ryan. First of all, Colin, how is this year's crop going, and when did you actually start with the new spuds?
We started about 2 weeks ago, Kieran, and all's going well so far anyway, and we're happy with yields and happy with the way everything is going, so, and the price is good, a little bonus.
So as regards varieties and when you start, how well has that changed a lot over the years, or are you still kind of starting roughly around the same time?
Weather seems to have changed in springtime the last few years. You seem to get a later winter, maybe not the most ideal conditions, but we got in around the 1st of March this year, so it was probably an average year to get in time, and everything kind of went well, and with the cold weather in May, which I suppose slowed things up. But as I said, we grow a lot of potatoes under polythene now, which is a big help, and that dries them on and gets them through. So
when you say a lot, would a large percentage now be under plastic?
I'd say we do up to 25% of our crop.
Right. So therefore, starting this year, when did you actually start picking this year?
We started around the 6th of June, probably with the cold May. It set us back 10 days. All was going well to be going 10 days before till we got the cold May, with a few risky nights where you'll be very worried going to bed with the frost, because that can write off the whole lot pretty fast. So
weather-wise, it was reasonably okay.
It was. The cold would make you nervous, but we got through it. So
the Ballinacourty spud, it's renowned. Just before we came on air, you mentioned that you're supplying literally all over the south of Ireland.
Yeah, I suppose demand for spuds has dropped, and the last few years people buy smaller quantities, so in order for us to sell our produce and shift it as fast as we can, we kind of have to travel with it now. But it works too, because we'd be in season maybe when another part of the country wouldn't be. We kind of have they call it a microclimate here with the sea and the
and of course breeze, that's sandy soil.
And the sandy soil, it warms up very fast in the spring, so you get a good kickstart, and you're getting ahead of the rest of the competition. So.
You were literally brought in and bred into this whole Ballinacourty spud, the early spud, but the amount of families, just before we come on air again, we mentioned the Foleys, the Hanrahans, the Morrisseys, the Kileys, Padjo Barry, you name it. Over the years it was renowned for growth, but unfortunately you're nearly one of the last men standing as regards we'll say quantity of early potatoes. I
suppose going back to my mother was one of the Ryans, and my uncles would have been very big, they would have been good growers, and they'd have had a substantial amount of crops, so I suppose I didn't tend to get into it. But then when the recession came and there was nothing to do, I just kind of fell back into it. And lucky enough, you're learning at this every day, and lucky things are going well for us.
So Colin, the early potato,
the Kileys and the Kileys and the Morrisseys still growing here as well. So you've kind of three families.
Three families keeping up that great tradition.
Yeah.
As regards varieties, we just touched on it earlier. Have they changed a lot, or is very much the same varieties over the last decade or so?
We've probably cut back on the quantity of one varieties. Yeah, if you know what I mean. We grow a small bit of home guard. We don't grow as much Queens anymore. We kind of spread out our varieties to get us into Christmas. We started dabbling with chip and potatoes just to learn about and see if we could get them in early and fill gaps in the market.
And is there a big difference in the requirement from the chip potato?
Yeah,
probably a stupid question to ask.
No, I started it last year. I tried it as a trial, and it's a different system and different things to learn about it, but we'll get there, we'll keep it going.
You've started digging, as you said, and picking since the 6th of June. Number wise then, obviously a lot of local labour required for that. It's difficult to get guys on board. I know a lot is automated, but still you can't beat the hand picking. Yeah,
we'd pick the very first one by hand, and then we move on to the harvester pretty quickly, but there's 4 of us or 5 of us out here in the fields the whole time working here, so we tend just to do it ourselves and keep the work ahead of us just to keep us all going.
You started the 6th of June this year. Will you have potatoes for the market right up to the end of the year?
We'll have them right up to the. We hope to be gone for Christmas Day. That's the plan anyway.
Colin, as regards the sale of these, we mentioned about that you're distributing to wholesalers and customers, but locally in Dungarvan, and before in an interview you mentioned to me, we're steeped in Dungarvan. You have your own Blackwater produce, or Ballinacourty produce, which is very near the Friary College in Duxpool. You have Country Store with Connor, and of course Johnny Lynch's veg.
Yeah.
Having 3 people supporting local veg growers is huge.
Oh, it's massive because it brings down transport costs. Sure, it's the most efficient way to do it, isn't it? Grow it local, sell it local. Like the minute you start hauling stuff up the country, like you have transport costs, and sure, look, we're going with the greens. We'll have a lot of emissions and things. So, you know, the simplest thing works best always.
As regards then the outside of potatoes, collie is probably
collie would be our main, would be a big thing here. Yeah, we do a lot of cauliflower there in the winter time.
So you'd be kind of starting the autumn, September,
we start
October.
in October and we run it right up to June till more inland will come in. We're kind of filling gaps. That's what we try to do. We try to make the most of where we are.
Something happening all year round, really. As regards rotation, how important is rotation, and is it a big part of producing that quality product?
It's huge. Like the early crops, we tend not to go outside Ballinacourty because we won't get the same results, and it can turn into a disaster pretty quickly. So we tend to try and get what land we can get in Ballinacourty and keep it for early production. Then we'll move more inland when we can, just to free up the land. And it's always good to get fresh ground and stop disease coming in, keep it all going.
And I suppose really the amount of sprays, and again people are very much conscious of the environment, and that you've really reduced the number of sprays being used. That's an extra cost really from a production point of view. Oh
yeah, of course. It's your yields will be affected straight away anyway. What we tend to do now, people might see you going around with a sprayer and they think, Jesus, he's spraying the life out of them. But most of the time what goes into the sprayer now is feeds. It's just organic feeds to try and keep the crop healthy, so it's not stressed, so it won't leave in these diseases.
As I said in the intro, when you mentioned Ballinacourty, you're synonymous here with the with that early potato, with that quality potato. How proud are you to keep on that tradition? How aware are you of that Ballinacourty name? And when you talk to customers right around from Dublin, Galway down, how proud are you of that tradition?
Sure, look, I'm obviously very proud of it. I wouldn't be at it if I wasn't. And I suppose that's what got me into it, was I wanted to keep the tradition going. And then suddenly you have a family, and then you have to provide for them. So it turns out into tradition and a business at the same time. So it works, because you get through the bad days too when you have that attitude. Of
course, and you have that passion for it, and you need that really. It's in your DNA, and it's so important. It's like a good dairyman. It's 24/7, and you're a 24/7 man when it comes to Ballinacourty potatoes and collies. Yeah, well, look, we'll do our best and we'll try and keep it going. Well, Colin, it's a fabulous story. I'm delighted to hear that you're keeping up such a great tradition. As you say, obviously you have the Kylies, Morrisseys and all, and other families have been involved, but you're keeping up. And I have loads of advisors as well, which is brilliant. I was just going to say it. There's a lot of expertise here and I'm sure there's a lot of camaraderie and hundreds of years of experience when you add it. You hear them in the local pub at the weekend. They tell you what you do wrong fast, and they tell you what you do right, but sometimes that's the best way. Well, Colin, you're doing an awful lot right. I'm delighted for you, and indeed for all your family, and what you've done with your Ballinacourty produce shop there at the Friary in Duxpool, and supplying, as we mentioned, the Country Store, and of course Johnny Lynch fruit and veg, as well as wholesalers nationwide. Keep up the great work, and best of luck with the rest of this year's crop. Thanks very much. Please God, you'll be here next year. Our Waterford people are encouraged to submit names of loved ones lost or injured in farm accidents for inclusion in the annual Remembrance service, organised of course by Embrace Farm. Here for you is the title of this year's event, and joining us on the line is the founder of Embrace Farm from County Laois, Brian Rohan. Brian, welcome back to our programme. Thanks very much, Kieran. Brian, firstly, I've interviewed you several times. You set up this Embrace Farm basically on the back of your own tragedy, losing your own dad. So without rehashing the whole piece for people who haven't heard the story, you were on a farm with your dad one day when tragedy struck, and unfortunately you lost your dad from that accident.
Yeah, it's actually 9 years ago this week, Kieran. That's excellent. And he was just taking a machine apart down the yard when it came apart sooner than expected. He received a blow to the head and rushed to Tullamore Hospital, and following a brain scan that was sent to Dublin, they confirmed there was nothing could be done. He would either be left severely brain damaged or he'd pass away in the next couple of days, which the decision was taken off us and we had to switch off life support then. So it was a tough time for the whole family, and we decided to set up Embrace Farm just as a memorial day once a year to remember our loved ones. But from the stories we got in from families throughout the country, we had to go a step further and put in a proper support mechanism for them, which has been very successful, and we're heading into our 8th annual Remembrance service this Sunday.
And of course it really it's been amazing people to talk about, not alone losing people but also the serious injuries. And we know from our own family back in Capperquin about the impact of a serious injury, and of course the fatalities on top of that. Getting people to talk and get involved in that whole discussion is so important.
Absolutely. Now, we have a brilliant survivors group going there. They have their own WhatsApp group going, and they also meet up whenever possible pre-COVID, and they've met up a couple of times post-COVID now with all regulations in place. But, to see the messages in the group there, some of them could be having a tough day and they just send a message there, lads, I'm finding it tough today. And the next thing, there could be 15 or 20 messages back at them straight away saying, look, if you want to give me a ring me, or the messages come in to keep them going. And there can be an awful lot of guilt with people surviving accidents even, do you know what I mean? Their friends or loved ones could have been killed and maybe someone else survived the accident. And, the mental strain and struggle there on some of them is just, it's truly immense. And to see them coming from where they have been to where they are now, it's just a great sense of relief, I suppose, for us too.
And Brian, I suppose last year epitomised when the COVID struck, and would you go ahead, would you not go ahead, what would you do? But inquiries and the support you got to do something and to keep this fantastic annual event going must have given you a great lift.
Absolutely. We're solely dependent on fundraisers from different clubs and organisations. Mockra have been tremendous to us there since we started about doing fundraisers, and last year we thought we were going to have no fundraisers, and yet they came on board again and they rallied around us as we're doing virtual walks and different things like that. And then some of the ag companies out there did their own fundraisers within house, and the money stayed coming in, keep us going and keep us afloat. It's just tremendous support to us all.
So as regards Sunday, once again it's online, and I know just before we talk about Sunday, one man that you've been inviting year on year, unfortunately for various reasons couldn't attend, is Uachtaráin Nahéireann and Michael D. Higgins, our president, and I was delighted to hear that he invited both yourself, Norma, and family up to Áras and Uachtaráin to really honour what you've achieved in Embrace.
Yeah, we were delighted to get the invite earlier in the week, and we were up there, and we have a tree got from the president now which will be planted in Abbeleggs in remembrance of all the farmers that have been killed throughout Ireland. And while we were up there, then he got us to ring the peace bell in remembrance of all the farmers that have been killed and seriously injured in the farms of Ireland. So it was great to get acknowledgement from the highest office in the country.
And when you see the stats, Brian, like 2011 to 2020, 210 lives lost on farm related accidents, and then when you look down at number of accidents per year, you're talking about 2,500 accidents per year. But it's huge, but it's so important. There's a better awareness out there, but unfortunately accidents are still happening week on week, year on year.
That's the thing, that the accidents always happen. Unfortunately, for a lot of families, the fatalities happen from the accidents, but there's a lot of minor accidents happening there. And the Irish Air Ambulance there, we've been in touch with them, and they said I think so far this year they've been out to 38 farm accidents. So it's fairly serious that the ambulance is needed for a farm accident, and there's been 38 of those already. We're only halfway through the year, and the whole thing with COVID then, when children were off school, and we're heading into a busy time now. Summer holidays are approaching this week for national school kids. There'll be more kids running around farms, and it's just the time to be mindful of all that as well. As
regards Sunday, obviously it's online, the Ecumenical Remembrance Service live from 2 p.m. on Embrace, and broadcast again on July 4th on RT. But as regards people to get involved and to tune in, and I know this year, as you're calling it Here For You, which really says it all, Embrace Farm's Here For You campaign.
Yeah, we just encourage people to log into our website, embracefarm.com. They'll see it live from 2 o'clock. If any of your listeners there has lost somebody in the last few years and maybe haven't been in touch with us already, they can drop us the name of their loved one at info@embracefarm.com, or they can send a message at 085 770 9966 and include a photo of their loved one, which will be included during our service. Beautiful. And the name will be read out on the day as well.
info@embracefarm.com. I think it says it all, and last year you had over 220 names were honoured, and I think it just shows you the impact and indeed the great work that and the people appreciate it, Brian. To yourself, Norm, and all involved in Embrace Farm, you're doing great work. Best of luck with the big event this weekend. As you say, it's live stream from 2 o'clock, www.embracefarm.com or info@embracefarm.com, and you'll get more information, and RTE will cover it live on Sunday morning week, the 4th of July. Brian, keep up the good work, yourself and Norma. I'm delighted that you're honoured by President Higgins, rightly so, and keep up the great work of Embrace Farm for people, unfortunately, who have lost loved ones or indeed fatal injuries or serious injuries on farm. Thanks for taking our call.
Thanks very much, Kieran.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Thousands of products in the palm of your hand.
And welcome back to part 2 of Farmview. Now, before we talk to Henry De Bromhead, who last week received the prestigious Freedom of Waterford, let's have a look at some items from our farming calendar. Turning to our marts, great to see ringside bearers, as we said, back again around the ring each week at our local marts. This Saturday morning in Waterford Ross Mart in New Ross, cattle sales from 9:30, calf sales from 10, while Dungarvan's Mart on Monday will have calf sales running from 10:30 with cattle sales from 11. And remember, all sales are now online at livestocklive.com. Turning to our farmer markets and country markets, and what an array of markets we have right around the city and county each week. This Saturday morning, Waterford Farmers Market, John Roberts Square, Tramore Farmers Market, Priest Road, Tramore, and also this Saturday morning, Stradley Farmers Market, running from 10 until 1 every Saturday morning. Sunday, Lismore Farmers Market at the picturesque Castle Avenue, Lismore, running from 10 till 4 every Sunday, while Ardmore Farmers Market up and running again each Sunday just off the beach car park every Sunday from 11 until 3. Thursday mornings, as usual, is Dungarvan Farmers Market every Thursday morning, Grattan Square, Dungarvan, from 9 until 2, while on Friday mornings we've Dungarvan Country Markets at the Scouts Den and Abbyside from 9 till 1, and also on Friday mornings we've Waterford Farmers Market in St Olave's Hall, also running from 9 until 1. Well, on the show jumping front, the Shankill House Equestrian Centre unregistered summer leagues are back up and running every Friday from 5.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Ireland's biggest online farming shop and more.
Honeysuckle and Rachel Blackmore. It's a beautiful straight 11 victories for Honeysuckle. She is the winner of the Unibet Champion Hurdle. Vanilla Indo is all out, flat out, but he wins the Gold Cup. Put the kettle on, wins again at the festival, and the mare fights them off to take the championship.
Having Rachel on our side was brilliant as well. You need everything to go right for you, which it did. Look, it's just incredible that the whole thing fell into place like it did.
Manila Times for J.P. McManus, Henry De Bromhead, and more significantly, Rachel Blackmore. History in the National. Manila Times wins.
Well, a very special presentation was held at Tramore Racecourse last week when Knockeen Butlerstown trainer Henry De Bromhead received the prestigious Freedom of Waterford, presented by the Mayor of Waterford City and County, Mayor Damien Gagan, at a special presentation in Tramore to recognise his historic achievements this year with his unbelievable achievements at Cheltenham, where he became the first trainer in racing history to train the winner of the Champion Hurl, Champion Chase and Gold Cup in the 1 year, and followed up with the biggest of them all, the Aintree Grand National in Liverpool. Well, after the presentation, Henry De Bromhead spoke and said how humbled and honoured he was to receive this award from the people of Waterford.
Like I said, it's just an incredible honour, something I never thought could happen to me. Obviously, as I said, I'm sort of representing a team, so it's for all of us really, and as I said earlier on, I'd love to thank all the councillors and the mayor. It's an incredible award
Henry,
to receive.
It's unbelievable. We're here in Tramore, just out the road, your stable. You were born and bred in Knockeen Butlerstown. You've put Knockeen Butlerstown on the map, not alone in Ireland but further afield. You're growing up there with your dad. The fact your dad had a winner in Cheltenham back in 93, was that really the icing on the cake for you to decide this is where I want to go, get involved with the horses, or had you decided well before that big win for your dad with Fisher Seal in 93?
I always wanted to be involved with the horses. I wasn't sure if I wanted to train. I'd seen how tough it was, and I think I'd spent a lot of my time trying to avoid it, and tried various aspects of the industry. Obviously worked in Coolmore in various places, and they were amazing words from Sir Mark, who was he was an amazing man to work for, and fair play to Willie Butler, who's actually, Sir Mark used to take an assistant for 2 years, and then he'd kick you out and he'd take another one, and when Willie turned up there, he decided that was the end of it, and like he'd followed people like William Haggis, David Loader, some of the top trainers around, and he decided William was the man who was going to take over. So that's some credit to him, another Waterford man. So
did that help you make up your mind training for you?
I said to Sir Mark, I said, I'm not sure if it's what I want to do. And he sort of said, yeah, I think you're right. So that didn't bode well.
Did you ring Harry at home and say, I'm getting sick of those?
That definitely didn't bode well. So I went to Coolmore again, and I always got dragged back, lured back to it. And when Dad became sick there, I said, he said he was going to pack it in, and it just seemed the right moment to do it. So and thankfully we've never looked back. We've glanced around our shoulder a good few times, but we've never looked back.
And here it's ironic again, in the year 2000, the huge day here, the only race track that had a race meeting on New Year's Day at the Millennium Day, getting the winner that day here in Tramore, and to be back here, this must mean extra special for you, the fact we're here in the Tramore Racecourse, and well done to Owen and Carolyn and the directors of Tramore for having everyone here, indeed Mayor Gagan and the councils for honouring you. But I think it's just fitting that you're here today. Do you feel something special, the fact that it's on here at Tramore Racecourse, where it all started for you?
Yeah, very much so. I always say it, like, a winner here is better than anywhere. You know, you're with pre-COVID, you're with your friends, your family. It's just, it's brilliant. I love Tramore, and as you say, my first winner here. Yeah, you know, we've so much history with the track. My father, my grandfather. There's nowhere better.
It's home.
There's nowhere better.
Henry, Cheltenham to you has been very, very special, and you've had 9 winners coming into this year. I interviewed you the week before Cheltenham. Obviously with COVID I wasn't down in the stables, but you said that you felt you had a very strong team. The fact you had such a strong team and a string going over, was there extra pressure on Henry De Bromhead more than ever? And did Honeysuckle winning the opener relieve that bit of pressure? Like, because Honeysuckle was the hot favourite, she had been unbeaten, Rachel on board. Was that win extra special in the sense that at least minimum you had the champion hurdle?
Yeah, you always go there thinking if you can get one, or I do. When there's hot favourites like her, she's an unbeaten record. Yeah, she was a big one. Yeah, definitely. And to get, you know, I think for Rachel and I, that was a great start.
Now, as we all know and well mentioned, you trained 6 winners, an unbelievable achievement. You're now up at 15, but the 3 big ones. Then we went on to the Champion Chase. Of course, it was your 3rd time winning it, your first big win, sizing Europe back in 2010, and then the Gold Cup. The pressure coming into the Gold Cup. You 2 fancied runners. What way did Henry De Bromhead feel that morning? Do you really feel, obviously there was a horse that won here in Tramore, Balco de Flo, or your own Balco de Flo, but also Album Photo with Willies and other fancied horses. What was your feeling going into the Gold Cup? Or was this bonus territory for Henry De Bromhead?
It was probably getting into it. Like, I just don't, I try not to expect too much and just hope always. And actually, after the week we had, I was kind of nearly ready to pack up and head home and just wrap the horses up in cotton wool and whatever. You know, when you have the calibre of the horses that we have at the moment, you know, whatever happens, you just want them coming back in one piece. And so I was probably thinking along those lines. And but yeah, it was just incredible seeing it unfold, to see them both taking each other on over the second last.
Had you mixed emotions coming to the last? Obviously you were hoping for a win, but the fact you had 2, did you have to pinch yourself? My God, 2 in contention for the biggest of them all, the Gold Cup.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like, even thinking back on it now, yeah, absolutely. Like, and of course I was looking at Paul Townend on Album Photo going, oh no, my 2 are going to cut their throats, and they've gone too soon, and he's going to come and beat us. It's just it was just surreal, really.
Well, before I go on the racing and show jumping front, we had a good week again for local Waterford connections. Cross Channel, Dungarvan jock Trevor Whelan was back in the winners' enclosure at Chepstow, while up at Downroyal, a good winner for Capit trainer Declan Queally, who's on a great run at present. Now, on the show jumping front, a lot of qualifiers happening right around the country, of course, for the upcoming RDS, and indeed great to see so many people already qualified from both ponies and the horse riders. On the pony and Young Ireland qualifiers, I want to say well done to Shea Healy of Capperqueen and also young rider Emma O'Connor of Capperqueen, who've both qualified. Well, on the horse qualifiers, the following have qualified. Colin Keane has 2 horses qualified. Colin, of course, Maglish. Gemma Phelan of Kappa has 2 horses qualified. Sarah O'Connell of Tallow. Paddy O'Donnell of Fenner. Francis Connors 2 horses qualified. Ty Beecher from Tallow also has a horse qualified, along with Tony O'Donoghue of Tallow. So well done all round. A few more qualifiers to go, and let's hope we'll have a good Waterford showing at the RDS this August. Well, that's it for this week's programme. So once again, my thanks to Ollie and Sean for all their help in putting this week's programme together. So stay safe, keep up the protocol, and hopefully I'll have your company again same time next week.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Thousands of products in the palm of your hand.